Good morning, I'm Steve Bowen from PV Bicycle Center, and today we're going to take a look at the new 2012 Specialized Venge. Let me start by saying that the Venge is the fastest road bike in the world. I know that's an extraordinary statement, but I'll explain why that's so. Now, first of all, this is what's considered an aero or aerodynamic road bike. Aerodynamic road bike is a newer category of road bike. The idea was you take some of the tube shaping aerodynamic properties of the frame from a time trial bike or a triathlon bike, but you put it in more of the geometry of a road bike. So these bikes have been around for a few years, 3 or 4 years I would say. These have been the drawbacks up till now. First of all, in order to make the tube shapes, the bikes have been a bit heavier, and also because the focus is on the aerodynamics of the tubes, then the bikes aren't quite as torsionally stiff as the modern road bikes are today. That means that they didn't necessarily climb as well because they flexed more, wasted a little more of your energy. And the third thing was the bikes are designed in the past, as are most time trial and triathlon bikes, for a theoretical straight-on headwind. So they're designed in a wind tunnel, tested in a wind tunnel for a wind that's coming from the front. Okay, well that's great, but how many times do you ride and when you actually have a direct head-on headwind? Very rare, right? So Specialized took a look at all these problems and said, okay, we're going to make an aero road bike, but we're going to do better than everybody else, and we're going to try and solve some of these basic problems. So the first thing they did was they found some ways to make it lighter by computer engineering, making the tubes so they were still aerodynamic, but without having to add a great deal of weight. So this bike is a little bit heavier than an S-Works Tarmac, but not significantly heavier. Secondly, again, through tube shaping rather than thickness of the tubes, and you can see the way this bulges here at the bottom bracket, they were able to preserve most of the bottom bracket stiffness, torsional stiffness that's in the current tarmac. The third thing, and perhaps most important, is they said, well, okay, most people don't ride into a direct headwind, and especially if you're riding a road bike, which is going to be used for general racing, stage racing, criteriums, things like that. If the bike is only at its most efficient in a direct headwind, and crosswinds are actually going to be a detriment as they are in a lot of aero type bikes, that's no good. So let's figure out a way to make the bike so that it actually is aerodynamic at a 30-degree angle from off-center on both sides. So they went to actually aerospace engineering and looked at the shape of airplane wings and things on airplanes that have to slice through a lot of different types of wind conditions. And they borrowed from that and learned from that, and they made a bike where you can really feel, if you ride this thing in a crosswind, it feels like it's slicing through the wind in the same way as it might slice through a headwind. It's an incredible feeling. So that's what makes this bike so fast. A couple of other interesting features that are unique to this bike. If you look at the head tube and the headset here, it's all integrated into the bike. So again, this is for airflow. Nothing sticks up above the top tube. It's all flat. This part moves and stays in the same plane as the top tube. So less air turbulence. You can see the interesting curved shape of the head tube, again for aerodynamics. Instead of these surfaces, like if you look at a lot of aero bikes, they come to a point, either at the front or the back. These are more curved, and again, that's for the off-axis wind resistance that gives you the aerodynamic properties from the side as well as from the front. Same thing if you look at the seat stays. You've got a little more gentle curves on the edge, not quite so sharp. And then this is basically the same chainstay as the tarmac, so it's flat and tall and thick, a lot of stiffness. There's really no effect on wind resistance in this part of the bike, so they can use what works on the tarmac, all the research that was developed for that. So the Specialized Venge, the fastest road bike in the world. May not be for everybody, but if that's what you're looking for, this is your bike.